everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. Thanks for joining us today to this webinar. My name is Paula Gonzalez. I'm a Technical Service Manager for Nutrition at Verbac. And today I will present some important points to consider when assessing nutritional needs for a successful weaning. This webinar will be very interactive. We like you to participate, and we have a couple of questions that will be asked during the presentation. So now we will start with the first two questions. So this is to know a bit more about you, where you are, and which type of enterprise you run.
Okay, so Paul should have shown up on your screen right now, and it's pretty simple. Where are you located? So we're just interested to see where you're from, and hopefully the information we present would be relevant to you. So I'll just give you a couple of seconds to click the states that you're from. You can see that unfortunately I've had to group some states together. It doesn't mean that these states are any less important than others. It just means that I've run out of space on this actual screen to list individual states. So you have to forgive me for doing it this way. But yeah, please let us know where you're from. I can see that most of you have voted, and again, the voting is anonymous, so I can only see the percentage of people that have voted, but I can't see which individual has voted for what. So don't be shy in submitting your responses. So I'll give you guys another few seconds. I think we're waiting on a couple of people. All right, I'm gonna close the poll off and I'll share the results so you can see where everyone's from. So we've got a large Queensland audience actually. So yeah, half the people here are from Queensland, a few from New South Wales, WANT, and yeah, a small proportion from Big Tas. Yeah.
Fantastic.
All right, yeah, back to you.
Next question. No, the next question.
Oh, okay, next question.
Yes, thanks, Jerry.
So we'd like to know what type of operation do you run? So if you could let us know whether you run a beef, dairy, or other enterprise. So if you run a mixed enterprise, you can click the other button there. You guys have a couple of seconds to submit your replies.
I have to apologize probably for the noise. They are cutting the grass.
No, cutting the grass, yeah.
My house. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So I think it's okay to be well, it's quite obvious that everyone's working from home these days, so we can certainly forgive you for having a bit of background noise in your home office. It's an unusual situation that we're in, but I think we're doing the best to make use of what we have.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to close the poll off and I'll share the response, and interesting split. So got a few beef producers, but yeah, mostly people have come in under the other segment. So no dairy producers. So if there's any dairy information, we'll probably just skip through it. But for the most part, I hope what we present today will be of high relevance to everyone who's attended.
Yeah, we'll be interested to see which is the other, like if the other are sheep producers. We're going to have another webinars on sheep weaning in the future, but the webinar will be mostly based on cattle. Okay, thanks, and we're going to continue to my presentation. Thank you, Jerry. Okay. So thanks, weaning. Thanks, Jerry. Weaning is a high demand period. The first 30 to 40 days after a calf is weaned is the most physiologically demanding period of its life. Calves are submitted to several management, including handling, castration, diet changes, commingling, and they are separated from the mothers. This is an enormous challenge to their physiology and immune system. Indeed, most of the illnesses and death losses due to respiratory and gastrointestinal diseases happens during this time. At weaning, calves have a still developing immune system that needs to be supported with adequate animal health programs, including vaccine, drenches, and optimal nutrition, low stress management, and good hygiene for a profitable and long productive life. To fully understand the nutritional needs of weaners, first we need to understand how the digestive system of a calf develops. All calves are born with an undeveloped rumen, which is the part of the stomach which in adult cattle is the fermentation chamber that allows the digestion of the feed being eaten. After birth, the young calf is dependent on milk for its supply of nutrients. When a calf sucks, a reflex action closes over the esophageal tube, which stops milk going into the rumen, reticulum, and omasum, and fermenting. At this stage, liquid feeds containing milk protein, fats, and simple sugars are the only useful feeds digestible for the calf. In the very young calf, from birth to 3 to 4 weeks, the abomasum is the major functional compartment, making up to 60% of the total stomach. Calves require liquid food for at least the first 4 weeks of life. As the calf starts to forage, its rumen at the other compartment gradually grow and develop. The rate of development will vary according to nutrition, condition and milk supply of the cow, and the available feed on the paddock. Typically, cows have a functional rumen between 3 to 6 months of life. Dairy replacement heifers can be fed and reared to complete weaning around 2 months of age or earlier if desired, when appropriate nutrition is given. The time taken by the calf to change from using just the abomasum to efficiently use all 4 chambers of the stomach depends on the type of food that is given. If milk is freely available for a long time, the rumen development will be slow, as seen in the first picture on the left. This pre-ruminant stage is the most critical in the calf development. Small digestive upsets can lead to scars and dehydration, threatening the survival and long-term performance. When feeding management encourages the calves to eat solid feeds, it enhances the rumen development, as seen in the other pictures, and reduces the dependence on liquid milk to supply essential nutrients, reducing also the risk of digestive upsets. By 1 week of age, the calf should be encouraged to eat some grain and hay or pasture. At this time, the rumen, reticulum, and omasum will begin to develop. As grains are introduced into the diet, the volatile fatty acid produced by digestion cause the rumen papillae to develop and the surface of the rumen to become rough, with a large surface area to absorb nutrients. In terms of specific nutrient requirements, weaner needs protein, minerals, and vitamins. Energy and protein are very important to sustain the rapid growth and development, and they must be balanced. The younger the weaning age of the calf, the higher the energy and protein requirements, because weight gain of calves is merely due to increase in body protein, for example, the muscles and the internal organs. It is recommended to divide the calves into groups based on weight and age for target supplementation. The following table shows the level of energy and protein, calcium and phosphorus required by calves at different age. As you can see, larger requirements are need to be met at younger age. So now we will talk about each nutrient requirement per separate. Energy. The metabolizable energy is the energy in the feed available for maintenance, growth, and production. Feed containing carbohydrates such as starch and sugars and fats are good source of energy. Importantly, the newborn pre-ruminant calf cannot digest complex carbohydrates and obtains its energy from digestion of fats, and they obtain the energy from digestion of fats, lactose, and proteins from the milk. But as the rumen develops, it can use more complex carbohydrates such as starch, hemicellulose, and cellulose from grains and forages through microbial fermentation to obtain energy. Pre-ruminant calves cannot break down the gossypol in whole cotton seeds. Therefore, whole cotton seeds are not recommended for very young weaners. The lack of enough energy in the diet will result in slow growth and late maturity. The protein sources available for ruminants are divided in three groups: the true protein from forages, grains, and protein meals, the non-protein nitrogen from inorganic compounds such as urea, and the microbial proteins. That it's when rumen microorganisms reach the abomasum and are digested. This is the major source of protein for mature animals. Non-protein nitrogen can only be used by rumen microorganisms. Rumen bugs need nitrogen to utilize starches and other carbohydrates for their own growth and reproduction. Since the rumen is less developed in young weaners, calves under 10 weeks do not have functional rumen and have minimal ability to process urea, and it is toxic in the young pre-ruminant or monogastric calf. Urea in older calves must be dissolved into molasses supplements to avoid toxicity. The insufficient provide of protein in the ration will result in slow growth. Milk protein or casein is easily digested and supplies essential amino acids for tissue growth, and this is why the milk is the only protein source recommended for young pre-ruminant calves. Vegetable protein sources in protein meals, concentrates, and forages cannot replace casein for young calves. Those are suitable for older animals and can replace the milk protein for ruminant calves from 6 to 8 weeks, who can convert it to rumen microbial protein. Sources of proteins to be used are lush green pasture, lupin grains, peas, linseed meal, cottonseed meal, copra meal, canola, and soybean meal. In terms of vitamins, ruminants get the vitamins from the diet and from rumen microorganisms. Essential vitamins must be added in milk replacers, in concentrate premixes, or as injectable forms if animals are not offered green feed. Fat-soluble vitamins such as vitamin A and E are obtained from green feed and are stored in the body's fat and liver. Water-soluble vitamins such as vitamin B complex are synthesized in the rumen and cannot be stored. At birth, the calf has no reserves of vitamin A, D, and E, and they are supplied in the mother colostrum and fresh milk. All vitamins, except vitamin C, are needed in the young calf diet until the rumen is fully developed. Once the rumen is developed, they can produce all vitamins except vitamin A and E. Vitamin A is necessary for growth, health, and normal metabolism. Precursors of vitamin A, such as alpha, beta, and gamma-carotene, are found in green pasture and in corn. Ruminants convert the carotenes to retinol or vitamin A in the mucosa of the small intestine. Rapidly growing animals fed high-concentrate diets and conserved forages may exhibit reduced growth, poor night vision, and blindness. Vitamin A uptake is affected by conditions that damages the intestinal wall, such as parasitism, zinc deficiency, because zinc is essential to produce the proteins that help to transport the retinol in the plasma and the liver, and also is affected by high nitrate levels in drought-stressed pasture. That leads to a destruction of carotenes and vitamin A in the digestive tract. Vitamin E is an antioxidant that complements the activity of selenium. Vitamin E is necessary for the optimal function of reproduction, muscular, circulatory, nervous, and immune system. Deficiency symptoms of vitamin E are similar to selenium deficiencies or white muscle diseases. Vitamin E is obtained from grains, except from lupin, and green feed, but its content is reduced in stored feed and can be low in powdered milk. Preservation of grain by ensiling causes almost complete loss of vitamin E activity. Drying or processing of forages can reduce their content. Deficiencies are easily prevented by regularly feeding a small amount of green pasture, such as lucerne, as fresh, hay, or chaff. Vitamin D is involved in skeletal growth. Sunlight stimulates its production by skin tissues. The other source of vitamin D for ruminants is vitamin D2, or also called ergocalciferol, which is produced by the action of the UV light on the ergosterol in mature forages. Green forages are poor source of vitamin D because vitamin D2 is formed by UV radiation during field carrying of hay or silage, depending on local climatic conditions. Deficiencies of vitamin D can occur if calves are housed for a long time, but it's very unlikely during normal paddock breeding conditions in Australia. In terms of water-soluble vitamins, vitamin B12 is very important. Rumen microorganisms need cobalt to synthesize vitamin B12. And vitamin B12 is the only vitamin from the B group that is stored in the liver. And this vitamin is essential for energy and protein metabolism in ruminants. B12 deficiency is secondary, therefore, to cobalt deficiency and produces anemia, anorexia, poor growth, poor fertility, and production. Cobalt deficiency and therefore vitamin B12 deficiencies are a problem for grazing livestock in some areas in Australia. As you can see in this map, mostly coastal and high rainfall areas. Rumen synthesis of vitamin B12 is functional by 6 to 8 weeks of age, depending on the intake of dry feed. Lambs and mature sheep are more affected by this deficiency than calves or mature cattle. Vitamin B12 deficiencies can be induced with high energy diets because B12 is essential for the conversion of volatile fatty acid into energy. Cobalt boluses and vitamin B12 injections as hydroxycobalamin, which is the longer acting form and it's the more effective form of vitamin B12 found in animal health products. Also in association with vaccines such as Webster 5-in-1 B12 are recommended at weaning to supplement vitamin B12. In terms of minerals, macrominerals are particularly important. They are required in a large amount in the diet. Phosphorus is critical for protein synthesis, carbohydrate metabolism, and bone growth, and it should be included in supplements for weaners on phosphorus deficient areas in both the wet and the dry season. Calcium is critical for bone growth. Calcium and phosphorus are supplied in milk and in good quality hay and pasture, particularly in legumes, grains, and protein meals. Growing replacement heifers needs additional calcium and phosphorus supplements such as the calcium phosphate or commercial premixes from weaning to support the pelvic bone structure. Poor energy, protein, and mineral nutrition at poverty show slow skeletal, including the pelvic development. Skeleton is the principal depository for calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, manganese, and copper. However, not all minerals can be removed from the bone to support the metabolism. Oh, sorry. I don't know why I mixed it. Okay. Sorry, it was a problem with the presentation. In the following with the minerals, sulfur is an essential component of proteins, amino acids, and B vitamins. It has a role on rumen microbial function. Deficiencies in sulfur may occur in diets high in carbohydrates, especially maize silage and low protein or high in non-protein nitrogen. Magnesium is important for skeletal development, neuromuscular function, and enzyme functions. Deficiency may occur if fed cows only on milk for long periods, as reserves for mobilization from the bones are depleted. Deficiency is also possible with lush green pasture, heavily fertilized with nitrogen and potassium or manure. Sources of magnesium are a good combination of grain, hay, or forages. Sodium, potassium, and chlorine helps to maintain the body fluid balance, and they are involved in nutrient uptake and transport, and also in nerve transmission. Salt supplements are beneficial for cattle in low salinity region, usually in high rainfall areas with red basaltic soils, often with kikuyu pastures. Salt can improve responses by heifers to molasses because it balances the high potassium intake. Trace minerals are essential for growth and health and includes iron, copper, manganese, cobalt, zinc, iodine, and selenium. The requirements for trace minerals is dependent on their availability in feed and soil, and the requirements increases in high demand periods, in particularly at weaning. Copper, manganese, zinc, and selenium are necessary for normal metabolism, growth, healthy skin and mucous membranes, hoof structure, fertility, immunity, and the antioxidant status. Cobalt is necessary for the synthesis of vitamin B12, as mentioned before. Iron and iodine are responsible for blood formation and thyroid function, respectively. Trace minerals are required in small amounts in the diet. The cow's milk is a poor source of trace minerals once the rumen is developed, and the requirements are highest at weaning. Once the rumen develops, trace minerals are affected by antagonist reactions, and they are not well absorbed. Antagonist reactions occur when minerals in the diet combine with feed components and other minerals in the rumen and become unavailable. Recently, higher levels than the previously recommended in the NRC have demonstrated to help improving the immune system and fight diseases in cattle. As we reviewed before, weaners are faced with several stressors and challenges at weaning. It includes separation from the moms, shipping, commingling, handling, changes in nutrition and feed intake. In addition, they still have an underdeveloped immune system, which reduces the disease resistance. Therefore, it's critical to support the immune system of weaning calves by supplementing trace minerals, in particular copper, manganese, zinc, and selenium. However, the orally ingested trace minerals are not always the best way to supplement trace minerals for high demand periods at weaning. They have variable palatability, and they are affected by the changes in feed and water intake. Recent studies compare the ability of different trace mineral supplements to meet the requirements of beef steers, and it was demonstrated that oral trace minerals formulation containing copper, selenium, zinc, and manganese in drenches have low rates of intestinal absorption and are affected by antagonists in the rumen, such as sulfur, molybdenum, calcium, iron, and phosphorus, reducing their absorption. Boluses, on the other hand, require longer time to reach adequate mineral levels in the liver and may be affected by changes in rumen pH and have reduced absorption of trace minerals. By contrast, injectable trace minerals formulation produce a rapid and effective method to increase the trace mineral status in cattle. This is why we recommend Multiman to support the immune system at weaning. Multiman is an injectable trace mineral formulation which is rapidly absorbed and readily utilized, producing a strategic and rapid mineral delivery at time of high demands. Multiman contains copper, selenium, zinc, and manganese, We also have a copper-free formulation for sheep and cattle. Multimin enhances the antioxidant system to improve the health and performance of livestock to cover high demand periods. Multimin is scientifically proved with more than 25 papers published in scientific journals. Multimin is absorbed in 8 hours after subcutaneous injections and reaches adequate liver levels in only 24 hours, avoiding the antagonist reactions in the rumen. Multimin is a top-up trace mineral supplement designed to complement good nutrition programs and is not designed to be used instead of good nutrition. While oral trace minerals help to meet daily requirements for animal maintenance to avoid deficiencies, Multimin is a top-up to supplement the animals during periods of large trace mineral utilization or high demand periods, such as weaning for animal performance. Multimin protects the immune system by improving the antioxidant system. Many of you are familiar with the term antioxidant, used largely in human medicine to prevent diseases, to boost fertility, and to delay the aging process. Antioxidants are also needed by animals. People and animals produce free radicals as a consequence of cellular respiration. This is a normal process necessary for normal metabolism. Antioxidants neutralize the free radicals to maintain them in an equilibrium. Excessive production of free radicals occurs in periods of high demands, such as weaning, and it is here when the antioxidant system becomes inefficient to neutralize the free radicals. This buildup of free radicals is called oxidative stress and can damage the immune system, making weaners more susceptible to infections. The immune system is formed by 3 parts. First, the skin, which is the largest organ in the body and is the first line of defense against microorganisms. The integrity of the skin and the respiratory and the intestinal mucosa, the physical barriers against infections, is dependent upon trace minerals and antioxidants. Second, the non-specific immune system, which is fast responding and good at dealing with different types of germs. Examples include general inflammation and phagocytosis, when white blood cells eat germs, like you can see in this animation. And finally, we have the specific immune system, which is specialized to defend against one type of germ and comprises the production of specific antibodies in response to vaccination or previous infections. Specific and non-specific immunity depends upon optimal levels of antioxidants and trace minerals. Antioxidants neutralize the free radicals in a process that requires 2 antioxidant enzymes. Antioxidant 1, named superoxide dismutase, to turn harmful free radicals into a less dangerous intermediate. Then the body uses the antioxidant 2, or glutathione peroxidase, to turn this intermediate into harmless water. This is good because then the water can be eliminated as evaporation or be part of metabolic process. These 2 antioxidant enzymes need the presence of 4 key trace minerals: copper, manganese, zinc, and selenium. Those trace minerals are found in our Multimin products. We have evidence that show that after you inject Multimin in cattle, it will elevate the levels of antioxidants. This graph shows the change in antioxidants in cattle after injections. Bars in reds are the control group and the bars in blue are the treated animals. You can see that right before injections, the 2 groups of animals have similar levels of antioxidants. But a few days after injection, the antioxidants in the Multimin treated cattle increase significantly. The effect of Multimin on immunity can be measured by determining vaccine responses, which are the markers of immune functions. So now here we have another question for you about the vaccine usage at Weaning.
Okay, which of the following vaccines do you use at weaning? You can select more than one for this question here. So if you use clostridials, for example, 5-in-1, or if you use lepto, 7-in-1, BRD vaccine, pink eye vaccine, or botulism vaccine, you can go through and tick all these that apply. So just give you guys a couple of seconds to submit your answers. Got about half of you that have voted so far, so I'll just give you guys a few more minutes, or seconds I should say. So again, here I'm limited to how many vaccines I can put on the screen at one time. So I've only got the 5 options here, but of course there might be a few people that use vaccines other than the ones listed on this this page here. But I've just tried to keep the vaccines that are a little bit more common. Almost there. I've got about 76% that have voted. Okay, I might just close it off there if there aren't any more answers that are going to come through, and I'm going to share the screen. So pretty good spread. So quite a few of you guys, well, seems like most of you guys use the 7-in-1. A few use a clostridial vaccines. I'm guessing from a cattle point of view, it'll be the 5-in-1. A couple that use BRD, a couple that use pink eye, and some that use bot there as well. Yeah, which is, I guess, not surprising considering that there's quite a few of you guys from Queensland.
Yeah, from Queensland. Yeah,
that's right. So yeah, definitely, yeah, good split of answers. And Paula's going to explain to you now the relevance of asking this question and how it applies to Multiman.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Jerry. So we have demonstrated the effect of Multiman improving protective antibody levels using different types of vaccines, such as clostridial vaccine, pestivirus, respiratory disease, and leptospirosis. Most of the vaccines you are currently used at Weaning. We see that in this graph that regardless what type of vaccine we use, we always saw benefits when we use Multiman at the same time as vaccination. The improvement can be anywhere between nearly 20% increase to a massive, nearly 140% increase. We have also demonstrated that treating your herd concurrently with Multiman and Synvac actually supports a stronger and faster immune response against botulism. We also have studies that show that when given at the same time as vaccination, Multiman can also reduce the time taken for the animal to be protected. In this case, it halves the number of days to reach protection against respiratory diseases from 56 to 28 days. Therefore, in the event of a disease outbreak a month after vaccination, animals treated with Multiman are more likely to survive to the challenge than those that did not receive Multiman. There are very good reasons why we want vaccine responses to be fast, as strong as possible. Often, we assume that once we vaccinate a group of animals against a disease, all animals are protected equally. In these images, the Y-shaped things are the antibodies, and they represent the protection levels against diseases. We assume that all the animals respond the same, and all produce good levels of protection. But what happened, in fact, is that instead, some animals respond okay, some others respond below average, some others respond above average, and some others don't respond at all. This is a problem because always it's going to be the non-responders and the pure responders to vaccination that die if there is a disease challenge. Instead, what we can do with Multiman is to improve each animal's immune responses to vaccine. So we improve the overall herd immunity. We have also demonstrated that topping up trace minerals to the cow with Multiman 30 days before calving support the early life of the newborn. Newborn ruminants, lambs, and calves are born with a very undeveloped immune system. In order to survive the first month of life, they depend on maternal antibodies ingested via colostrum. They are also born with trace mineral reserves in the liver that correspond to 30% of the mom's reserves. Those first trace minerals reserves are utilized rapidly due to the rapid growth rate, as you can see in the graph in the right, and also due to the need to establish immunity, and because, as I mentioned before, the cow's milk is very low in trace minerals. This rapid reduction of trace mineral reserves justify the use of Multiman to supplement trace minerals at the time of weaning, which is the most demanding period for the physiology and metabolism of a young animal. Multiman is a registered pharmaceutical product. You need to follow the dose rate outlined on the label and do not exceed them. For calf, it's 1 ml for every 50 kilograms of body weight. Dosing to the lightest and straight to the heaviest in the mouth is a good rule of thumb. Do not use Multiman in emaciated or sick animals. And just like other drugs, more is not better. Multiman has very low rates of adverse events, but excessive copper and selenium can be toxic. Multiman is designed to be injected subcutaneous, and for best practice, we highly recommend applying at the side of the neck in the area shown in the diagram and separate from other injectable animal health product. So now continue with the nutrient requirements for our weaners. We continue with water. Water is normally referred by nutritionists as the forgotten nutrient, because the lack of water will cause the death of an animal sooner than the lack of any other nutrient. Remember that 60% of the body is water. Calves from 1 to 2 weeks old will begin to drink water between the milk feeds, and by 6 weeks, they may drink 4 to 5 liters daily. Weaners can drink, in average, 55 liters per head per day. Water intake depends on weather, shade, and the amount of milk intake. Fresh and clean water should be always available, especially when calves have access to dry feed or hay. The use of troughs is preferred for calves because dams are not suitable for them. Water quality is also very important. Quality control includes checking for salinity, acidity, pollution, and algal bloom. Particularly important over summer because due to the evaporation, the solids concentrate. Water is also easily contaminated by grain dropping from the calf's mouth. Other ions and elements also need to be checked, such as calcium, nitrate, magnesium, and iron. High levels of those minerals in the water also interfere with the absorption of nutrients, such as trace minerals in feed. Now we will discuss some strategies for adequate weaning. We need to provide high quality, highly digestible feed to achieve normal development and target growth rate. Balanced diet is required according to the calf age, health, and growth targets, as well as an availability and cost of the ingredients. We should aim from a calf growth rate of at least 600 grams per day until they weigh over 250 kilos. Good feeds and supplements should be available to weaners as soon as they are drafted from the moms. The interruption of feed supply for weaners can compromise the immune system, precipitating coccidiosis. The best control of coccidiosis is to ensure adequate feed intake and growth of calves, including monensin in weaners ratio. It's also recommended. It also may help to control the coccidiosis outbreak, but it's important to not overdose. Most of the times, the calves are introduced to new feeds for the first time at weaning. It may take 1 to 2 weeks for the rumen microbial population to adapt. It's important to allow time for the calves and the rumen bacteria to adapt to new feeds. Introduce the concentrate, for example, grains, slowly, 300 grams per animal per day, and increase 100 grams per animal per day with free access to hay. Start out with feeds that the calves are used to. If the calves are being creep fed, The feeds used in the crib should be part of the grain mix, at least for the first few days. Or if the calves are being adapted to grass, keep long stem high for the first 3 to 7 days. It's also recommended to supplement the feed mix with a buffer, such as sodium bicarbonate, to prevent coccidiosis. Calves normally prefers a dry grain mix, but they will adapt to high moisture feed, including corn silage, over a 2-week period. There are several examples of post-weaning diet, including high-quality legume-based silage, for example, a lucerne silage with 60% of dry matter and more than 65% of digestibility. We need to add grain if the silage quality is low. Lucerne high, 30% grain and some soybean meal or canola meal, lucerne pasture, high protein and high energy calf or heifer reared pellets as well. It is important to observe the feed intake. Feed intake and animal performance may be restricted by small rumen capacity at weaning. If the feed moisture content is very high, they physically cannot consume enough feed to meet their energy and protein demands due to the small rumen size. Dry concentrate-based supplements can be provided to early weaned calves, grazing lush pasture in order to increase the total dry matter levels in the diet and the energy density. You need to assess pasture weekly before the proposed weaning time, and then also following weaning to ensure that nutrient intake is not restricted. It's also very important to ensure adequate fiber. Effective fiber reduces the risk of acidosis, particularly if feeding grain. Fiber stimulates the secretion of saliva, which contains salts and buffers against acidosis. Raw fish should be chopped and mixed with the other components of the diet before feeding. Pellets with slowly fermentable carbohydrate and minimum fine material are recommended. Palatability of the feed for calves is important. Consider adding a sweetener such as molasses or grape mac into the mix, but careful because molasses ferment quickly and will rapidly decrease the rumen pH, potentially resulting in acidosis. You need to also monitor the rumen health. Assess the proportion of calves that are chewing the cud and the consistency of the dung pads. You need to allow also adequate feeding space to prevent bullying. If putting early weaned calves into very high quality pasture, you need to consider the role of roughage in maintaining the healthy rumen development and rumen health. Lastly, I will have some recommendations for low stress weaning practices. Weaning is a critical learning time for young cattle, in particularly if they're going to be finished in feedlots. In this sense, yard weaning is the preferred method. Yard weaning from 5 to 7 or 10 days give cattle time to adjust and reduce their stress level. Once drafted, they must have access to clean, good quality feed and water. During this time, they will become familiar to stockyards, human contact, management, and feeding practices. Yard weaning is also good for individual temperament and health assessment, and it's been demonstrated that yard weaning that when you wean cattle in yards, they are less susceptible to respiratory diseases once they enter in the feedlot. Now, to finalize, I will have some summary points to consider when assessing nutritional needs for weaning. The first 30 to 45 days after the calf is weaned are the most important days for the physiological development and are the most demanding period of its life. Good health and nutrition and low stress management during this time is vital for a profitable and long productive life. Weaners have a still developing immune system, which reduce disease resistances. This is critical to support the immune system for weaning calves by supplemented trace mineral. Multiman is a unique trace mineral injection which is rapidly absorbed and readily utilized. Injecting Multiman at the same time as vaccination at weaning improves the immune status and vaccine responses. Thanks for your attention, and please stay tuned for future bareback webinars in our webpage when you can register for the webinars that is happening in the next couple of weeks. And also feel free to ask any question. Thanks.